But let's start off with the NFL awards and start off with the one that everyone cares about, the number one top one, the NFL MVP. Of course, this last year, after Rodgers winning it back to back,
Mhm.
um, of course, Mahomes had to take it to get a second one. But he's not my pick for this year, but I'll let you go first, Rem. Who are you having as the 2024 NFL MVP?
Oh, he's not your pick. I mean, I'm not totally surprised because I mean, you're trying not to be biased. I get it, but the Mahomes thing this year for the MVP does feel a little bit different because, going back to when he won the first MVP in 2018, like that was his first full season in the league. So you could see the talent. I mean, it was crazy. We knew that if he could keep it up, like this is what he was going to be. But it was still his first full season. Tom Brady won the Super Bowl on the Patriots that year. Playoff Brady was still peak of his powers. Rodgers in his mid 30s. Drew Brees is still in the league. Philip Rivers on the Chargers. Andrew Luck, that was Andrew Luck's last season. Russell Wilson was still at like the peak of his powers. So this season feels like the first time that like Mahomes, like it feels like this is the first season that somebody actually has to take the MVP from Mahomes. Because I get he won that again, that MVP in his first season, but now with the resume and as like he said in the Netflix show, he's established himself as the best quarterback in the league. He is in the prime of his career. And it just feels like this is his to lose. I mean, Rodgers won back to back MVPs before this Mahomes MVP. So he even still had from just like, media narrative stuff, just like a little bit of a little bit of a thing to get over there. And none of that's there this year. Like he is clearly the top guy. It's his to lose. And I just, is somebody actually going to be able to outperform Mahomes and like separate themselves away from this guy and actually like because again it feels like you actually have to take away the MVP from him this year. Like it's his to lose.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I mean, he is the best quarterback in the league, and he has, obviously coming off of winning the Super Bowl, so dominating. And there were some close games, there were some hiccups, but I do think that this year the wide receiving core with the Chiefs is kind of worrying. Tony, had some injury issues this last year. MVS wasn't super healthy, and there's a reason why I think we got 8 wide receivers, which is the most, at least in a couple of years, maybe under Andy Reid, I think it is,
I have a
most
ton.
wide receiving. Yeah, so I mean, that just shows that we're not set at wide receiver. And, last year we had similar concerns, and Kelsey showed up and dominated again. But at some point, Kelsey got to slow down. And I obviously don't hope it's this year or anytime soon, but it's something that we got to count, you got to keep an eye on. And with Mahomes, he's starting to reach the point where he's just been too good for too long. It's one of those things where you either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And at some point, losing to Mahomes got to get annoying. I know it's definitely annoying for our division rivals. Being here in the Bay, there's a lot of Oakland Raiders fans or Las Vegas Raiders fans. And yeah, I mean, they hate Mahomes. They hate the thieves. That's what they call them. But it's one of those things where it's like, at some point it's going to start extending to other teams outside of our conference and stuff like that. And that affects the storyline and people who are choosing these awards and giving Mahomes back to back MVPs. I mean, there's no way he can really top last year unless he, just has a monster year in terms of stats. And I don't know if he has the personnel to reach, higher heights than he has in the past. I think he'll obviously still have an elite season because it is Mahomes. But at the same time, I don't know if there will be a lot of like super wow moments in terms of, the number of points he's putting up, things like that. I think we're going to be grinding out a lot of these games. They're going to still be wins. I'm not saying we're going to be 7-10 or something like horrible, but I think with Mahomes in this next year, it's similar to where a little bit of LeBron in his prime, where you just expect it of him, and it's not that great. Like to people who are watching it, it may not seem that new or that crazy or that great because it's just what we expect of him. And someone that I do have there instead, who may even have more wins this year. I don't
Hmm.
know. I'm feeling Jalen Hurts. I
Hmm.
know people always talk about the team that loses in the Super Bowl has a hangover, but I think this might be the first team in a couple of years to beat it. They keep the same offense. They pretty much. I mean, they still have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard at tight end, and have Gainwell running back. I think they brought in Swift. He was not there last year, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're able to sign Jason Kelsey, so they still have that O line. And I mean, they did a great job of signing a lot of their free agents. They had like 20 going into this
Hmm.
offseason. So keeping that O line together is huge. And they're going to get a lot of wins again. Hurts is gonna, but and the thing is people actually know who Hurts is now. I mean, people who
Yeah.
actually watch football know who Hurts was the whole time. But in terms of being a household name, Hurts is at that point being in the Super Bowl, and so going into this year having relatively easy-ish schedule in terms of I think while their own division is pretty good, is a solid one of the better divisions in the league. I think the conference as a whole is pretty weak, and I think that they should be able to handle business, and with that defense, which is going to make games easy for them. And I think Hurts is going to put up some monster numbers, and it's definitely looking at their strength of schedule here. Let me see here. I'm trying to. They have the 10th easiest schedule in the league. So I think that combined with bringing in all their same veterans on top of having an improved defense, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, is pretty much a perfect storm for Jalen Hurts to have a monster year. And now people actually know his name, and so they're gonna vote him. And with Joe Burrow having his own injuries, some real questions about Josh Allen. I think Hurts really has a pretty clear path to be the MVP this next year.
Well, I'm glad you brought up LeBron for the Mahomes point because I think you're right. We will get to that point where the greatness, you expect it. The bar has been raised. He'll raise the bar too high for himself at some point, and then he won't match it some season. It will seem like a disappointment. But even for LeBron, like he won his last MVP in 2013. So it took everybody like 10 years to get to that point with LeBron. He won 4 MVPs in 10 years. Mahomes is still only in year 6, but I guess year 7 of start. I think this is like his 6th year as a starter for
Yeah.
the Kansas City Chiefs. So I wonder if this is still this if this is the season where that happens. I still feel like peak of his powers and just the first season without Tom Brady. I feel like that too from a narrative standpoint and him just being like the lone guy from both a regular season standpoint but also a playoff standpoint in the league. I just wonder if this is the season where everybody gets tired of that. I still think he could have a couple more runs with that, but Hurts is definitely on the top of my list for guys to unseat Mahomes from that, and then not like play back. I still think Mahomes is going to be the best quarterback in the league. I think
Yeah.
the season he's going to have is going to be the best quarterback in the league. But for all the narrative stuff to come together the right way, I think Hurts is on the short list of guys that can actually get there because just in general, there's like 3 types of quarterbacks that actually win the MVP. There's where what we saw with Rodgers the last couple of years, where you have the veteran guy getting his respect, still playing, amazing high level football. You get the what we saw with Mahomes last year, where you have this prime guy, peak of his powers, just having an amazing season, or you have sort of the young guy breaking through, taking that next step. The kind of the Lamar Jackson 2019 season. Now, Hurts had that season last year, but like you said, that team was so deep that his role was more like, can he just sort of captain this ship and not mess anything up? And now for this season, I think you're right. I think he takes a big step forward, and I think just like his talent, his playmaking ability, I think that's on full display. And all of the other like peak of their all of the other prime quarterbacks in the league right now, they're all in the AFC. So they're all directly competing with Mahomes. So if Mahomes is just on top of the AFC again, you're going to give the MVP to Joe Burrow. Well, it's like, well, Mahomes is the best team in that conference. You're going to give it to Josh Allen if Mahomes is the best team. Well, no, because Mahomes is the best team in that conference. Jalen Hurts actually has the, like you're saying, the path to be. They have the path to dominate the conference, be the one seed. He has a chance to be best player, best team type case. So I think Hurts has a strong case. I think Burrow right now, from a betting standpoint, is the guy that's right behind him. But I don't know, just these AFC quarterbacks, like I just don't know if anybody is going to individually put up the numbers to outperform Mahomes this season. Burrow, yards per game, his highest yards per game for a season, 288 yards. Mahomes' lowest is 284. Burrow, the last 2 seasons, has been over 2% interception percentage. Mahomes has only been over 2% twice in his entire career. You need, if to throw for 5,000 yards in a 17 game season, you need to average 294 yards a game. Mahomes, for his career, is averaging 303 yards a game. I just, again, these AFC guys, I feel like he's gonna outperform all of them. So Hurts is the one, I think, the NFC quarterback that can emerge. There is, can I give you another AFC candidate?
Oh, okay.
Just a guy that I think could emerge, because Burrow is the AFC quarterback again that is getting all the love.
Yeah.
But actually, this is not even. I think I'm just joining you. Can I just join you on a take here? This is a take you had a couple weeks, or I don't remember, a couple weeks ago, but you said
Hmm.
you thought about, what if we walk away from the season and just think Trevor Lawrence is a top 3 quarterback? Can we discuss the Trevor Lawrence MVP case? Does it need to be brought up? Do you,
Can
do you
take a
even do you,
look. Take a
do you
look.
even do you even see a world? Because I don't know. I think, again, it's the types of guys that win the MVP. So you have the legend guy, the prime guy, or the young guy, and I think Burrow and Allen and all these other AFC guys, they kind of fit into that prime category for where they're at in their careers. I mean, Burrow's, came into the NFL a little bit older, but Lawrence actually has the chance to like take a big leap this year. And I think if you're going to give it to an AFC guy that's not Mahomes, assuming Mahomes again is number one, would be the guy that's like, okay, so Trevor Lawrence is clearly like ascended. Now he's the guy that we thought he was. The Jags are like this competing team because, I mean, he's going into his 3rd year. So if he's really like this transcendent player, it would kind of make sense that he's, quote unquote, arriving as a top guy in the league by his 3rd year. I mean, just go through the other great quarterbacks in history. Like Dan Marino won the MVP in his 2nd season. Peyton Manning was 2nd in MVP his 2nd year. Mahomes won the MVP in his 2nd year. Lamar in his 2nd year. Johnny Unitas won the MVP in his 4th year. So I don't know. Again, it's like it's narrative stuff here, because I just don't know if anybody's going to outperform Mahomes. So who can build a narrative that could beat Mahomes? I think Hurts is a guy, but do you think Trevor Lawrence could get there with the Jags?
It's gonna be an uphill battle for Trevor Lawrence just because of the
Mm,
defense. I don't think it's elite enough.
you don't like the
And
defense.
I mean, maybe that team, like in terms of, it's.
I,
I
I
mean,
do I do sneaky I do see, the thing is, I sneaky like their defense because I have Josh Allen stock. I have a lot of Tyson Campbell stock. And I think Trayvon Walker playing next to, like, Trayvon Walker as your second pass rusher is potentially gonna work. Would you rather have Aiden Hutchinson there? You're like Aiden Hutchinson's a better player,
yeah,
but I think that could work. I don't know. I think the defense could be sneaky good. I think if the division's bad and you just have 6 easy games and the rest of their, non-divisional games are not really that tough as well. Like they have the 23rd easiest schedule in the league. 5 of their last 7 games, Texans, Browns, Bucks, Panthers, Titans, to finish the season. And if they're just like in the competition for the 1 seed, maybe they're not like the team. Maybe he's not the player that Mahomes is. But if it's like, okay, he's clearly ascended. The Jags, from a record standpoint, are now hanging with these top teams. I feel like I just got to find the right narrative, and I feel like Trevor Lawrence has some narrative points in his favor.
I don't know. Are you watching this preseason football? They're undefeated so far. Hold the
Hmm.
Lions to 7 points. I don't know. Coming into the season hot, that's always good. I mean, for the Jags, I've definitely said like them taking a step forward. I think maybe challenging to be one of those elite teams. But in terms of MVP case, I don't know. I'd pump the
A year
brakes
too
on that
early.
just because I think there's just too many elite quarterbacks in their prime right now in
Hmm.
their own conference. And, while he could definitely tear up your own division, which I don't know. I mean, the Titans, that's still
Homer
tough. I
pick,
mean, they're
kind of.
going to be right with them. I know. They're going to be right there as well. So it's, I don't know about MVP, but I definitely think that they're going to take another step this year. We will see another step of growth with Trevor Lawrence, and maybe he'll get close in that conversation. And I think one of the things is that with the MVP, because we have so many quarterbacks, so many options at MVP, I think you need a year to get into the conversation and then a year to actually be picked. Like people got to actually know who you are, and I know people know who Trevor Lawrence is. He had a great college career.
Yeah.
But in terms of in the NFL, NFL analysts, people like that who really consider Trevor Lawrence up there, I think they still need a year of seeing it before you could start being in consideration for an actual MVP case. Especially with just the logjam that is the QB carousel that you can choose from nowadays, and and that's why I really like Jalen Hurts on the other side because he's gonna really really shine in the NFC, in his own division, which I know I brought up 10th easiest schedule. That's actually the easiest schedule in their own division. I don't know why the Commanders
Hmm.
have a top five tough schedule, tough for them, but yeah, they have the easiest schedule in their own division, which means that, I mean, should definitely win it. And coming as the number one seed, so the best team in their conference, he's going to be looking like the best player, and definitely in that area. And and with Hurts, we've seen him improve every single year. It seems like he's taking a big jump. We love gym rats, people who are great at
Hmm.
studying, coach's son, know how to play the game right, and a lot of it is off the field worth ethic, and we know Hurts has that, and so I think it's just a perfect storm for him, just because I think this team is going to be really dominant. And you can't give besides the Super Bowl, you can't really give an award to a whole unit or something like that. So it's just going to feel like we have to give the Eagles something. I mean, they're just so good right now. And that I think that's how the feeling's going to be at the end of the season. And they're going to be, I would be really interested to see how many wins they get this year and how they're looking going into the playoffs. Because depending on also um, injuries from the 49ers, if they're injured, I mean, it could be a cakewalk real quick. So I think the Eagles, it's just set up too well for them in terms of, there's no other really great challengers besides the 49ers who usually get in their own way, in their own conference. They have the same pieces that got them to the final, and but a lot of those pieces are young and still growing, and including Hurts himself, and more talent than ever on that team. So I don't know. I mean, maybe Trevor Lawrence in like 2 3 years, but I think this is Hurts' year. People actually know who he is, and now we're actually watching him.
I do agree with you. I have so my MVP ballot right now. I'm kind of just thinking about it. I do have Mahomes one for I guess like most likely MVP. I have Mahomes one. I
Yeah.
have Hurts two, but I did have Lawrence slotted in there number three for that. Who's just gonna like jump up into that conversation this year because
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna mention Jalen Hurts here and we're talking about him already in this conversation, but Jalen Hurts was number two in MVP voting next year. So the path for that guy to just be like, okay, he takes a big step forward and then his team takes a big step forward and is now, in that one seed conversation. I mean, Jalen Hurts just did it this year. So, I mean, if that's okay, Trevor Lawrence, like you're saying, I mean, that's exactly what you're saying, where this is the season where he's, you have to be actually in the conversation. And then the next year, once you're floating around in the guys, you actually have a better chance of winning that. So Hurts had that season last year. And like you're saying, I think coming into the season with that pedigree gives him a bump over Trevor Lawrence. But ultimately, like, what is the real difference between Trevor Lawrence and Jalen Hurts besides literally that one season? They're both young guys. I think Trevor Lawrence. I mean, again, we were calling him a generational talent. We were saying
Yeah.
he had the ability to be the best quarterback in the league. And if you're actually going to do that, I mean, most of the time you're not ascending there by year 6. Like most of these great quarterbacks aren't late bloomers. I get, you want to throw in like Steve Young because of, having to sit behind Montana and all that stuff. Like, there's a couple of guys, but these guys are going early in their careers. Like Trevor Lawrence, year 3. I think if he is an elite guy, I think this season, I think we definitely see it. And if there was a way to like bet the MVP ballot, I would bet like Trevor Lawrence to be like top 3 MVP voting, because I think the leap that the Jags are going to take, I think they're going to be in the top of the conversation. I think with the divisional wins and the games against the opponents, the Titans could be feisty, but the Tannehill thing is worrying. So I think if you have 6 potentially easier games in your division, and again, those easy non-divisional games, the path is there for them to have a good regular season record, be a good regular season team. And I think Trevor Lawrence, I think the media likes him too. And I think the media kind of wants him to be in the limelight as one of the top quarterbacks in the league. So I mean, I've really been thinking about it. When you said, is there a world where we come away and say, is Trevor Lawrence a top 3 quarterback in the league? The one guy I think that is also in that conversation is Jalen Hurts. But if we come away from this season and say, oh yeah, Trevor Lawrence is now a top QB in the league, I mean, I'm fully prepared for that. I think that's exactly where we're going.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see him enter that conversation. I don't know if I'd put him that high, but I think this year will be a big, a really big test for Trevor Lawrence to see if he can make that leap, because now he doesn't. I mean, now he has kind of the weapons everywhere. Everyone's kind of healthy, and he really doesn't have an excuse. And with the second year with Doug Peterson, it's definitely it's time to to get put up or shut up pretty much at this point. So. And
Again,
with the division, oh, where's it?
If he is as good as all of these guys this year, like that's the way it's going to be. All these guys are
Yeah.
young. Like, he is a tier down, but it's not like Josh Allen's going to be an older quarterback in the league in 2 years. Like, he's still going to be going. Burrow's still going to be going. Herbert, Dak, like those guys. So Lawrence and all these guys are going to be in the mix together for a while. So if Lawrence is just in that group at the end of the season, like, what's going to be the difference between Lawrence and Herbert? If Lawrence is just better than Herbert this year, like, I don't know. I'm prepared for it to happen. Like, I can
No,
see
it's
it coming.
definitely
I'm prepared.
close. I mean, it's close. It's right there. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't know how much you can even split the two, because I don't. Has Herbert even won a playoff game yet? I don't.
He
I
hasn't.
don't think so. Yeah,
Lawrence
has.
beat him in the only playoff game that Herbert
Exactly.
has been in.
Exactly. So
And maybe that's not Herbert. We'll get into our playoff picks a little bit later. I'm sure the Chargers will come up. Who knows if Herbert's to blame for that? But I don't know. He's been the quarterback on those teams.
exactly, he was there. He was playing football.
I'm just
But
saying,
yeah, I
if
mean,
the Jags are taking the leap, like, that's Lawrence taking the leap every year. I don't know. Has Herbert taken the leap every year? Yeah.
who knows? Someone's got to take the leap. I think he could definitely be the breakout candidate if there was a breakout MIP award. He definitely would be number one. But yeah,
I'm
I
still
think
picking
I'd have
Mahomes.
Hurts. Yeah, I'd have Hurts number one, Mahomes two, and then Burrow, probably Burrow three, and then Lawrence four. But if Burrow stays up and down in injuries and isn't able to stay healthy, then I could very much see Lawrence slide in there, because yeah, I'm not putting too much stock into Jackson and all that. So
Again, just no,
moving on.
none of these AFC, all of these AFC quarterbacks literally like have to be better than the Chiefs this year to win it. So Jalen
Yeah.
Hurts, that frees him up. I think it's tough to go chalk again from last year's MVP ballot, but I do think that looking at the landscape, Mahomes and Hurts do have the 2 best paths to get there.